Figure 4 Radio.
Lock it in.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Lock it in.
Lock it in. Figure 4 Radio.
Hello and welcome to Figure 4 Radio, the first in what could be a number of podcasts filmed live from the Heatwave Sauna.
The Heatwave Sauna, yes. This is for when we do a top 10 countdown of something. We are literally in a sauna, and if you can't stand the heat, get out.
So a bit of background, basically. We had new neighbours. They moved in. They offered us a free sauna because they didn't need it anymore. We built it in my laundry room, and we are in it talking to you right now.
Yeah, so anyway, the top 10, or the first top 10 that we're going to do is for the first 10 years of the WWF, or the WWE, pay-per-view matches. Now, this is something that you've done yourself.
That's right, yeah. It's a little kind of little hobby I've got going on. I'm trying to watch every single WWF pay-per-view in history, basically trying to answer the question, what is the best match of all time? It's a big question that everyone always asks.
Yeah, obviously everybody got their own opinion of what's the best matches. Some people would say Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan back in WrestleMania, was it 3?
Yeah, I would not be one of those people that would agree with that, but I'm sure we'll get into that later on. So I've compiled a list. I think I offered a choice of about, I think it was 20 matches.
Something like that, yeah.
I bought around 20 matches. We sat down and watched them. Basically everything from WrestleMania 1 all the way through to Survivor Series 1994. So that's 1985 all the way through to 1994. Every pay-per-view in between there was considered. So I kind of supplied 20 matches, I think, in the end.
Yeah, and then Ollie and his better half came over to my house with my better half, and we spent 9 hours of watching wrestling.
It was quite a while, quite a long time. So just a quick rundown of the matches that we I shortlisted for everyone to watch. We had Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. We had Hulk Andre from WrestleMania 3. WrestleMania 4, Rick Rude versus Jake Roberts. We had Valentine versus Garvin from Royal Rumble 90. Hogan Warrior, WrestleMania 6. Warrior Savage, WrestleMania 7. Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect from SummerSlam 91. And the later match from King of the Ring 93 as well. We had Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper. Savage versus Flair, both from WrestleMania 8. Savage versus Warrior, SummerSlam 92. Bret versus the Bulldog, SummerSlam 92. We also had Bret Hart versus Owen, WrestleMania 10, and Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, WrestleMania 10. Diesel versus Bret Hart, King of the Ring 94. Owen Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid from the same pay-per-view. Alundra Blaze versus Bull Nakano from SummerSlam 94. Bret versus Owen again, SummerSlam 94, and Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund, Survivor Series 94. It's quite a list there.
And Brie.
Yes, quite a lot to take in. What do you think of the days? I mean, obviously you might not remember watching those. You might not have ever seen a lot of those matches. What did you make of them?
I thoroughly enjoyed the whole idea of the whole day. Obviously, you coming over to my house, we watched wrestling, we had pizza. But at one point, basically, Ollie was like a teacher and said, write notes of every single match going on.
Only because I didn't want you to forget.
And I did. But no, halfway through, I kind of gave up and sort of gave my notepad and pen to my other half, and she's made some notes, which we're going to test
all honesty,
you, I think.
In all honesty, these notes were possibly the best thing you'll ever read in wrestling. Safe to say that the boss, Alice Kennedy, she's not a wrestling fan.
No. Despite
her now having her own nickname and her own gimmick. Her notes were brilliant. We're going to cover those as we go on. Should we start off with our number 10s?
Yes. Right, my number 10 was The Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6.
See, now I put this one as one of my honourable mentions. It didn't quite make the list compared to some others. But I think it's a brilliant match.
First of all, watching it, I wasn't really that impressed until you kind of sit back and this happens quite a few in my top 10. But when you sit back and actually watch it, and something you mentioned on the day was this is the first time it was face versus face.
It was very unheard of back then to have a good guy versus a good guy.
Yeah.
There'd been maybe one or two instances of a bad guy versus a bad guy, but generally speaking, it's always a good guy and a bad guy, as it always is in wrestling. There was very, very few kind of good guy versus good guy battles at that time.
No, so this is something that when you mentioned that, and I actually sat back and sort of thought about it, because they both had their ups, they both had their downs, they both sort of hulked up or warriored up.
They did.
They both executed their finishes, as I believe.
They did.
And to be honest, when you think about it, it was hero versus hero.
Yeah.
And it basically, is it going to match up to the Superman versus Batman film coming out in 2015? We don't know. But it was still, I think, a sight to see back in the day.
It was an epic battle. It definitely was. No, I think that's possibly one of my favourite Hulk Hogan matches, possibly one of my favourite Ultimate Warrior matches as well. Before I start on mine, actually, my other honourable mentions, Ronnie Garvin versus Greg the Hammer Valentine, Royal Rumble 1990. It was a submission match, and at that time there wasn't many gimmicks. Both guys kept going for pins, even though it was a submission match, which made them look a bit silly, which is probably why I marked it down. But I think we both agreed it was just two tough guys just literally like knife edge chopping the crap out of each other.
That one almost made my number 9, to be honest, because it had the comedy value.
For all the wrong reasons.
For all the wrong reasons.
Like
you're saying, for the pins, for the flapping every time they gave each other chops. There was also a moment, I can't remember which one's which, but they had the figure 4 leg lock, but they both had a shin guard on it.
Yeah, that was the story. They had their shin guards. There was, I think it was the Hammer Jammer and the Heartbreaker. They nicknamed their shin pads. And that was basically meant to stop the effects of the figure 4 leg lock. And of course, it all got exciting when I think it was
Jimmy Hart ripped them off.
One of them ripped it off the other, and whichever one was the good guy at the time, the crowd went wild because they thought, yeah, he's going to submit, and he did. It was, I mean, I love it as a match. It was just two of the kind of the old guard guys just beating the living daylights out of each other. I also really enjoyed Diesel versus Bret Hart from King of the Ring '94. It was a really good match. Basically, Bret carried Diesel through the entire match, but showed that Diesel could be a big game player. But it didn't quite make my top 10. This might be quite controversial. My number 10 was Bret versus Owen, the opening match at WrestleMania 10.
All right.
I liked it as a match. It was really good. It was possibly the kind of Owen Hart's coming out party where he showed the world he could really go. But it didn't lack the drama as you'd have hoped for some of the later matches that they had.
No, it's to be fair that there was quite a few Bret Hart versus Owen Hart sort of.
Bret Hart features very heavily in his first 10 years. So Bret Hart versus Owen Hart was my number 10. Who was your number 9?
My number 9 was actually one we didn't watch.
You've superseded my my advice.
This is one I watched a while back because basically I'm a huge fan of this guy, and it's only got into the top 10 because of this one guy.
Okay.
It was the debut of The Undertaker.
Yeah, that's Survivor Series 90...
I believe it's 91.
91.
I want to say 91. But like you say, as we grow up, we saw him back in sort of the 90s, and obviously the streaks ended now. But when you go back all the way back to 91 or the early 90s, when he's just started, and just watch this massive human being take on basically the WWF back in that day. Mm-hmm. The roster was absolutely phenomenal, and I think they did it in the right way and basically let The Undertaker build the character into what is known as one of the greatest performers and characters and gimmicks of all time.
It's definitely a very important match. I in all honesty, I didn't even consider it, but then I guess it depends on your categories and what you kind of look for. I mean, as I say, for me, I'm looking for that one match. Basically, if I was to find someone that laughed at me when I said I like professional wrestling, I want to try and find the one match. If I tell them to just go and watch it, they will see why I love it. Yeah. I don't think Survivor Series 91 would have been that match, but very important match indeed as The Undertaker goes. But I think it's safe to say he definitely gets better as his career progresses.
Certainly.
Yeah. My number 9 was the Alundra Blaze versus Bull Nakano match. This is for the women's belt at SummerSlam 94. Possibly one of the best women's matches I've ever seen.
No, I certainly enjoyed this. This was the only women's match we saw.
Yeah, because in all honesty, the rest were god awful.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from women's wrestling, but when you think of wrestlers, you think of the Hulk Hogan's and the big men.
Yeah.
The historic men, the Bret Harts, the Shawn Michaels.
Women always seems to struggle.
They do, but having said that, going into this match, watching it, for all the other matches around about that time with all the men going on, it was highly entertaining.
It was a really good match. Both women could actually wrestle. Bull Nakano especially, she goes down as one of the best women wrestlers of all time. It was just a really good, entertaining match. They were throwing moves around that you rarely saw at the time.
They were pulling each other's hair.
Yeah, I mean,
pulling the hair, and they were flinging around.
Yeah, the way that Bull Nakano did the hair pull takeover, it just looked amazing. It looked brutal, and I think the crowd, they hadn't seen much of it at the time. So I really enjoyed the match. I think it deserves number 9 spot.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Who's your number 8?
My number 8 is Ric Flair versus Macho Man Randy Savage at WrestleMania 8.
This one didn't make my list either, actually, in all honesty. Yeah, I cut this one short. I didn't like the end. I thought the end was a bit dodgy. Why did you like this so much?
Basically, because it was 9 hours of pure wrestling, I had to go on somebody's notes. Now, I struggled to read a handwriting.
Can we get our first extract from the boss's notes?
Right. Ref kicked some dude, made one by fruit roll-up. Rick kissed his woman and she flipped. Macho well gel and beat shit out of old guy. Macho wear hip top because he's back now.
Wow. So I think basically what she's trying to say is the ref kicked some dude.
Yep.
Yeah, I got that one. Macho run by a fruit roll-up.
Fruit roll-up?
Yeah, it was... that was... I think the idea was Ric Flair was going after Macho Man's woman, Miss Elizabeth. So Rick kissed his woman and she flipped. That was the story they were going for.
Macho was well gel and beat shit out of old guy, which is
that's
Ric Flair.
These notes, they're priceless. They're priceless. We'll hopefully get more of these as the podcast progresses. But yeah, the boss Kennedy is
strikes. The reason why I've gone for that one is because it does what wrestling is not really known for. Is the story. I know they're known for the storytelling, but for the entertainment value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your girlfriend, if I was in a nightclub and kissed your girlfriend, what would you do?
I'd flip.
I'd
be
flip.
well gel and I would beat the shit out of old guy.
And the reason why you wear a top now is because you're fat now.
That's true. It's true. Yeah, so it's real life, basically. They're playing on real life.
Yeah, which I appreciate, and I thought that deserved a spot somewhere in the top 8.
That was definitely a good story. My number 8 was, once again, a lot of people say this was one of the best matches in history. I've put it down as number 8 in the first 10 years. Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat from WrestleMania 3.
Okay, go on.
It was a groundbreaking match. Up until that point, all the matches were very... I want to say boring. So like WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2, if you watch them, there's not an awful lot to it. It's body slams, it's clotheslines, and punches and kicks, and then...
As soon as the DDT came out.
That's the thing. I mean, back in those days, the DDT was a big finisher. Nowadays, it's your throwaway move that people kick out of. It's a 2-count move at best. Savage and Steamboat, they put on a really good show. They practically stole the show at WrestleMania 3. It was one of the first times they'd utilised numerous pinfalls. Up until that point, kind of the pinfalls were far and few between. It was either the end or not. But they had loads and loads of pinfalls. It was a really frantic match, some really good, fast-paced action in the middle. It was definitely an enjoyable match. And if we were doing this podcast after 3 years of the WWS pay-per-view, this would be number 1. But yeah, for me, there was at least 7 more matches better than it.
That's what you think. Right, number 7?
Number 7, what have you got?
I've gone for one you've mentioned is Alundra Blaze versus Bull Mechanic.
Yeah, what did you say? You've already said it.
I've said what I thought about it, and I just think, obviously, that was better than the Ric Flair versus Macho Man of
Fair enough, I would agree. My number 7 was Ultimate Warrior versus Randy Savage, WrestleMania 7. This was the career-ending match. It was a very big match at the time. I remember it was one of the more iconic things was Randy Savage giving Ultimate Warrior, I think it was 5 top rope elbows. which at the time, if he hit one,
no one would kick out.
He hit 5 and Warrior kicked out. So they kind of telegraphed the end, I guess, in a way. But I think this match is probably more famous for the closing picture of Randy Savage reuniting with Miss Elizabeth.
That was the true.
It was one of the biggest stories of the 90s.
Big romance there, bless him.
In fact, have we got the boss's notes on that match?
Oh, we might do.
I seem to remember these. They were equally brilliant.
Good job. This podcast. You put still down.
I can.
Yeah, you're good. I'm in Warrior.
There you go.
No, this is my notes. No, these are my notes. I put one by spear job after taking 4 elbow drops. Elizabeth comes and saves Savage's romance. Yeah, that was my notes. Unfortunately,
okay, that's a shame. I prefer Alice's, but no, it was a really good match. The crowd were really into it, and it set up a really good storyline. Randy Savage, of course, lost his career, fought, and he ended his career. Historians know that wasn't necessarily the end, but it was a brilliant match.
No, like I said, I thoroughly enjoy it, and I appreciate matches which go away from the ring and actually do storylines like that.
We don't get enough of them these days.
No. Right, number 6.
Number 6 for me, I've gone for. Yeah.
It's getting hot in here, and he's going all too loud.
I'll be honest, it's hotter in here than I thought. I'm not sure if I can stand the heat. I've gone for Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, SummerSlam '94, the cage match.
Okay. Yeah,
it was a brilliant match again. This had a lot more emotion in it than their opening match at WrestleMania 10. I felt. The only reason it didn't rank higher is it was a long match. It was about 30 odd minutes, and there was a lot of the same spot of one guy getting to the top of the cage, going over, being pulled back in. That was overplayed for me, so that's why it didn't rank much higher. But the emotion was brilliant. The family feud was one of the best ever. Really strong match, probably one of the best cage matches at that time.
Yeah, I've gone for one we didn't watch again,
but
okay, one was on the short list.
It was on the short list. I think we cut this out for our partner's sake because we'd already reached 8 hours, so we cut this out. Is this Royal Rumble 92?
It is Royal Rumble 92.
In my opinion, one of the best Rumbles.
Yep.
Probably for mainly for Ric Flair.
It was for Ric Flair. Now, what I liked about it is it was high profile. Basically, every big name was in this one. Because unlike these days, back then it was for the title.
Well, no, that was the first time.
Oh, was it?
That was the first and only time it was for the title. I think after that, 93 onwards was for a shot at the title. This was the one and only time. I think because the belt had to be vacated. There was various things going on. The belt was vacated. The Royal Rumble took place, and the winner was granted the belt.
Yeah, and while watching it, I think one of the commentators, can't remember which one, it's getting hot in here, I can't think, that nobody had won the Royal Rumble before slot 20 or something like that.
Yeah, it was quite a unheard thing for someone to go, more than an hour in the ring.
So Ric Flair coming in at number 4?
Number 3.
To win it was absolutely fantastic. He had his moment where he could enjoy a bit of rest when he got everybody else out.
Yep.
The only thing I thought took it away from the whole Ric Flair thing, and we talked about this on the day, is somebody who doesn't like the light being on anybody else was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
The ending.
If I remember, was that the Hulk Hogan Sid Vicious?
Yes.
Yes. You see, the thing is, I didn't mind that. Cool. Firstly, because I was getting bored of Hulk at this point. One thing I think a lot of bookers don't use Royal Rumbles for is you've got 20, 30, 40 guys in the ring. You can either just have it as the winner and that's it, or you can use it to set up storylines. The thing I loved about the 92 Rumble was the amount of storylines that carried on despite it not being despite the Royal Rumble winner not being involved in them. So I think there was numerous feuds. I think it was Jake the Snake and possibly Randy Savage at this point were at a feud. But either way, there was a lot of storylines carried through the entire Rumble, and they continued them and used the Rumble to full effect.
Yeah, I think at one point Jake the Snake kept looking around his shoulder for Randy Savage. So when Randy Savage came in,
he made a beeline for him.
He did. He went under the ropes, not over the ropes.
Yep, and it makes sense, because if you've got all these people in the ring, if it's just random guys, beating on each other, it's you've got an hour-long match. You might as well use it to better these storylines that you've got going.
Yeah, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and kind of wishing now I kind of did a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's number 6 in my top 10.
That's fair enough. Number 5, I've gone for Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper from WrestleMania 8 for the Intercontinental Championship.
That, I gotta admit, was a match. I might have some of ours to do on that one.
I hope so.
But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. No, I'm not a huge fan of Mr. Rowdy Roddy Piper.
I mean, in the ring, he wasn't a gifted tactician as far as wrestling goes, but he was one of the most charismatic people that will ever be in the World Wrestling Federation / World Wrestling Entertainment. He was a larger than life character.
He certainly was. No, because I got into wrestling when he was in WCW. So I just didn't like his character. I didn't like the fact that he was trying to be Scottish and wasn't. And I think that just annoyed me somewhat.
No, that's fair. I mean, this was possibly his best ever match, and I doubt he'd dispute that. There was a good there was a bit of blood in it, which was interesting for that time. It was just a really good passionate match. As I say, Bret and Roddy, they both have that kind of that dark side. The fans love them, but both wrestler has that ability to flick a switch and just turn that little bit nasty. So it was really good to kind of see both men not really wanting to kind of turn heel on the other, but at various points deciding to kind of use the underhanded tactics to try and win.
I think I found it. The reason why I couldn't find it sooner is because this is what I've got to go with.
Yep.
Roddy Piper versus Pinkman.
Pinkman.
Yes.
Alice's favourite wrestler.
Yeah, this
Pinkman.
is Fake Tartan versus Pretty Sunglasses in a dome. Oh, in a dome.
Yeah.
Bagpipes, dinosaurs, kids' t-shirts, not a Scot. Ew, Pinkman's wins.
Pinkman, yeah, there you go. Pinkman won.
That's all you need.
Yeah, that's all. That's your 3 cam right there. What was your number 5?
My number 5.
This is why I made you make notes. You see.
Yeah. Bret versus Bob.
Bob Backlund.
That's the one.
Bob Backlund. Yeah, we can. Let's talk about this now.
Okay.
Yeah. Why did you like that? What was it for you?
Okay, the ending.
Yep.
Was it kind of a bit sudden? I kind of had to think about it.
The ending that went on for about 9 solid minutes.
Yep, Mr. Bob, as I'm going to call him.
Mr. Bob.
He had no music at the time.
Yeah, that was funny. He was just in the ring.
And he had Bret in a what was it? Crossface chicken wing.
Crossface chicken wing. He had it hooked in.
God knows how long.
I actually got my stopwatch out and I timed it at just over 9 minutes solid. And he was lying in the ring, and
at least 2 minutes had already passed before you even got a stopwatch out.
That's true. So it was in there for a good 10 minutes.
Now this is what I'm going to come back to. This is going outside of the ring, so the storyline.
Yeah.
Basically, the British Bulldog was knocked out.
Yep.
By Owen Hart. Do you want to give it a roundup of what the match was?
Well, it was a submission match, but the rules were it was whoever's kind of corner threw in the towel first. So Owen Hart held the towel for Bob Backlund, and the British Bulldog held the towel for Bret. And obviously, if the British Bulldog threw in the towel, then Bret lost. If Owen threw in the towel, then Backlund lost. Of course, Owen wasn't going to throw his towel in at all because he was desperately wanting Bret to lose.
Yeah.
As you say, Owen inadvertently tripped up the British Bulldog and knocked him out cold. Which then led to the 10 minutes of Owen frantically trying to find someone to throw the towel in on the Bulldog's behalf. And it was, I think this was possibly the most emotionally fueled match I've ever seen.
And this is why it's in my top 5.
Yeah.
It's because Owen, when the British Bulldog was knocked out, what Owen Hart did and the way he portrayed his, shock.
Yeah.
It looked like a light bulb just switched and go, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Please sort it out.
Yeah, so he turned really sympathetic, turned around to his and Bret's mum and basically begged them to throw the towel in for them.
Now, this is what I like because, again, this is one of the matches when the cameras, everybody wasn't looking at what was going on in the ring. Obviously, Bret Hart in the crossface chicken wing for God knows how long. They were looking to the side, and basically, if you got a mother around, you can pull at those strings. Anybody can.
Yeah.
Any son or daughter can pull at those strings of a mother. And eventually, the parents, both of them, got near to the ring, and I think everyone was begging her not to throw it in. I think they were all hoping,
because they were hoping that Bret would somehow get out of it and then carry on to retain the belt. But yeah, Owen Hart, he pulled it off. He managed to convince Mama Hart to throw in the towel, and then Bob Backlund won the belt.
And of course, any mother don't want to see their son in pain, and of course that love, that obviously Mama Hart, as you like to put it, was too much, and yeah, she chucked it straight in. Yeah, it was kind of a shock. It was kind of quick, wasn't it? Just grab and chuck it in.
She lobbed it in. No one saw it coming. Bob Backlund was ecstatic.
No music.
Helen Hart, Mama Hart was distraught. Owen Hart then all of a sudden flipped the switch back again, and he was ecstatic because Bret had just lost. That's what he wanted. But I say brilliantly emotionally charged match. And in all honesty, Bob Backlund is a brilliant wrestler, as is Bret Hart. So those two were always gonna create gold dust. Not the wrestler. No. Not Mr. Rhodes. What was that? Was that your number 5?
That was my number 5.
Number 4 for me was Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog, SummerSlam '92 at our very own Wembley Stadium.
Now, was this in the household while we were watching this? Was this when Scott Star Spud was throwing accusations about a certain British Bulldog might have been on certain...
He wasn't a massive fan of the match, 'cause I think Bret carried Bulldog for a lot of the match. But
I can see where he's going with that, to be honest.
Maybe. But I just love it. I mean, it was in London. It was in Wembley Stadium. It was a British Bulldog in a British arena, fighting for the Intercontinental title. Never before or never again has the belt meant as much as it did that night.
Really? Oh, okay, yeah, not the Intercontinental. I'm thinking about another match in the next 10 years, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later on.
When we get to it.
Well, I say within the years in the podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Has the Intercontinental title ever headlined an event like that before? Or since?
No. I'll give you that.
I think as far as Intercontinental matches go, that will be the best of all time. I doubt I'll see many better matches for the Intercontinental belt.
No, I'll give you that one. Obviously, again, I'm a great fan of what's happening outside the ring, aren't I? Because it had also Bret Hart's sister.
I mean, with the Harts, they love to play on the family thing, and
I think they did it very well.
In almost every match that any members of the Hart family were involved in, they would play on that family element, which I say was fine. It was brilliant, really. Luckily, they didn't overplay it. It was just the fact that British Bulldog was married to Bret Hart's sister. It played on the family aspect a nice amount. It didn't overstay its welcome.
No, it wasn't. It certainly didn't have the involvement as her mum, Bret Hart's mum, in the Bob Backlund match. But it was kind of the camera angles was kind of shot at her, and everybody knew about it.
It was going back and forth, but it was a big match.
It wasn't played on it too much.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the fact that it was a very British thing for me was brilliant. It was a massive match. It was a massive finish. The crowd was so into it. Obviously, it being being in England, and it was a British Bulldog that ultimately won it. I just love this match. Probably for my kind of patriotism. Yeah. What was your number 4?
My number 4 is one you've already had. It's the cage match, the steel cage match, Bret Hart versus Owen.
Yeah, you lifted it a bit higher than my number 6.
I did. I'm a great fan of gimmick matches.
Me too.
When they are performed brilliantly.
Yeah. It was an excellent match. It was really, really well executed by both men. They used the cage to full effect. I enjoyed it.
What took me by surprise is actually how small the actual cage was. Now, I know they had the old style with it was kind of ladders, wasn't it?
Big blue cage.
But it essentially, you can get on the top rope and jump over.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, but like I said, both performers did it well. They've kind of played nice. It's something I know you hate, but they played on the cage door.
Yeah, see, me and cage matches, I love cage matches, but 9 times out of 10, it's billed as you're locked in there with someone. There's no escape. You're in a cage. There's no backing out. But you're locked in a cage. There's no escape unless you walk out of the door.
We're locked in a sauna. It's full of heat, but we can just.
That's the thing. Like it's not edgy if you can if it's a it should be like a prison. You can't escape. If every prison you just had to walk through the door, said, "Referee, can I walk out, please?" and they hold it open for you. You're not locked in there if the door's not locked. So
I think if you went to a prison and said referee instead of
that's true.
might have a go at you.
But yeah, that's my bugbear. I will probably mention this in future podcasts. If you're having a cage match and your builder's being locked in there with someone, just lock the actual door. Kind of like Hell in a Cell, but with the escape aspect.
Locked, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Number 3, the
number
top 3.
Now, for me, this is where it was getting tricky for me, because I kind of worked from number 10 up. In all honesty, I've always known my top match, but the 2 to 10 was always tricky. But at this point, it was getting really tricky for me because I only had a few to pick from. I've gone for Owen Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid at King of the Ring 1994. Now, I almost guarantee that a lot of our listeners may not know this match.
No, I certainly didn't until you told me about it. Now, I actually went away and tried to watch this match before you said don't. And I saw a bit of a feud between them on Raw.
Yeah.
I think it was the night after or somewhere around about that time.
Okay.
And even that was jaw dropping.
Yeah,
and it was absolutely brilliant.
This point in WWE history was it was kind of like a changing of the guard. They called it the new generation coming in. So it was more focused on the smaller guys, and you were seeing moves that you'd never seen before. And I think in the Owen Hart 1-2-3 Kid match, it lasted about 3.5 minutes. And in 3.5 minutes, you saw more moves than probably the entire of Hulk Hogan's back catalogue up to this point. In 3 minutes, I said there was suicide dives, there was hurricane ranas, there was fisherman busters, there was bridging German suplexes. Every move that they probably knew at that time was thrown into the match. And for me, it was just it was something that was unseen at the time. When up until this point, it was lots of just power slams and leg drops and clotheslines. This match really kind of highlighted what the new generation were all about. I would urge everyone to go and find it if they can, because it's 3.5 minutes of excellence.
It's King of the Ring
1994. Owen Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid, of course, went on to be X-Pac, Sean Waltman, Six-Pac, numerous names. But yeah, brilliant match that highlighted what both men could do.
Your number 8 is in fact my number 3.
Really?
Macho Man versus Steamboat. Now this is I thought the match at that time was absolutely brilliantly.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, one DDT would finish it. But this is obviously doing the wrestling training and watching it these days. That if you go back to then, and all they had was sort of hits, chops, the general moves.
The standard stuff, yeah.
They looked more real than half the moves did today. Now this
Fair
is what
enough.
I liked about this one, because doing the research on this match, they put a lot of effort into this.
They did. They really did.
They
That's
worked
the thing,
together really well.
I won't belittle anybody for liking this match, but as I say, I'm looking for that one match that that will show everybody else why I love wrestling. Unfortunately, I don't think this is the best example, but for those that, if I was trying to find one of the best technical matches, then obviously this would be up there. It really would.
No, this is what, because like I said, they worked on this match for months. Now I'm not sure that wrestling or wrestlers do that these days for big pay-per-view events.
Yeah, no, probably not. It's more called on the fly.
And I think they should do what Macho Man and Steamboat did back in the day.
I
think they should do more of that.
Well, possibly if the reports are to be believed, and they spent literally months going through it. I don't think. Well, I mean, you look at the amount of matches that people have these days, that would be impossible.
But okay, for WrestleMania, for the next WrestleMania 31, the main event, I think they could do.
Or at least call some really big spots and at least plan so you can try and steal the show, which is ultimately what Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat did in this match.
Because that wasn't actually main event, was it, at WrestleMania?
No, it was a few matches underneath the Hulk Hogan Andre the Giant match.
That was awful. To steal that match, to steal the main event, you gotta hand it to them. They got
they went out there and they really did steal the show. They definitely laid out their intentions of where they were wanting to go with wrestling at the time. They definitely broke the mold with that match. My number 2 is the Bret Hart and Bob Backlund submission match. As I say, mainly for the level of firstly the level of wrestling, because as I say, both men really technically gifted, and just the emotion. It was such an emotionally fueled match. For me, that one is. Yeah, I say it's half an hour. It's not a short match. 10 minutes of that is a crossface chicken wing. But you've got to give it to both guys. They really went out there and put on a show. Either man could put on a clinic.
It was a good, entertaining match all round, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just seeing if we've got any notes on this match. No, we don't.
No, we'll recap the notes before we get to our number 1s. What was your number 2 match?
My number 2, and I've just found the notes for this.
Oh,
right, number 2.
So let's have the notes and then
Okay.
see if we can pin a match on it.
So, versus Moody Much, lots of counters, submissions. Haley Kai leg thingy. Owen 1 poor kidding wrinkles.
I think
this is the problem. I can't read her writing.
Let's have a look.
You have a go. You have a go.
I'll try with the translator. Moody Much, lots of counters, submissions, thingies. Owen 1 poor kiddie winkles.
Yeah, that sounds about
Yeah,
right.
that's it. So I'm guessing that would be the Owen Hart 1, 2, 3 kid.
Yeah. Which it was down on your list, but it's my number 2. Purely for the fact of it was absolutely fantastic. It was quick. It was entertaining. It was basically it could match any match in today's.
Pretty much. I think that's definitely. I think if it went longer than 3.5 minutes, it would possibly be number 2 or number 1.
And they might have died.
That's true. At the point that it was a mental match and well worth
really
watching. So I'd say we've got well, I'm guessing actually from the match you haven't mentioned and the match I haven't mentioned, we've both gone for the same. But let's have a quick recap.
Yep.
So for myself, the Mastermind Ollie Spring, number 10 was Owen Hart versus Bret Hart, WrestleMania 10. Number 9, Alundra Blaze versus Bull Nakano, SummerSlam 94. Number 8, Savage Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. Number 7, Warrior Savage, WrestleMania 7, career-ending match. Number 6, Bret versus Owen in the cage at SummerSlam 94. Number 5, Bret versus Roddy Piper, WrestleMania 8 for the Intercontinental Championship. Number 4, Bret Hart versus British Bulldog for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam 92. Then number 3, Owen Hart versus 1, 2, 3 Kid, King of the Ring. Number 2, Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund, Survivor Series 94.
Right, my top 10 Killer Kyle Brand is number 10, The Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 6. Number 9 was the Survivor Series 91, The Undertaker debut. 8 was Ric Flair and Macho Man at WrestleMania 8. At number 7 was Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano. Obviously, you've already said this one. Number 6 was the Royal Rumble 92 when Ric Flair won. Number 5 was Bret and Bob Backlund in SummerSlam 94. Number 4 was Bret and Owen in the steel cage match. Number 3 was Macho Man and Steamboat at, of course, WrestleMania 3. Number 2 was Owen Hart and the 1, 2, 3 Kid at King of the Ring 94.
Yeah, so before we mention our number 1 matches, should we just have a dig through some of these notes for our viewing, or for our listeners' pleasure? Because these really were something special, I think.
But I want to do a small competition now.
Yep.
If anyone can go onto our website, it's figure4radio.webs.com, and tell us what match this is. Should we give them the event?
No, let's leave it out there. Let's just go with the notes. But leave out the names.
Yeah, of course. Totes made him naked. Somebody by modified sharpshooter. He had a lovely pink top. Had a lovely pink top.
It's wrestling gold, really, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Should we do another? So if you could tell me what event that was from. So Totes made him naked. Zubada, won by modified sharpshooter.
Yep.
He had a lovely pink top.
He did. Lovely pink top.
I think that was obvious, but who was he fighting? Who did he almost make naked?
Who did he totes make naked? That was just brilliant. It's wrestling gold.
You can go onto our Facebook or whatever and Twitter at Figure4 Radio for that one.
We've discussed that one, haven't we? The Roddy Piper versus Pinkman match.
We have.
Good match. What have we got here? We had that one as well. What was ref bump? Bright colours. Count out. Oh yeah, that was Randy Savage versus Ultimate Warrior from SummerSlam 92 that was ended on a count out.
Yeah, that's of course my notes. The Boss is Bulldog versus Hart in the Intercontinental SummerSlam 92.
Yep.
Oh my god, this one sucked. Bulldog was sucky and had cool hair, so that slightly helped. Another roll-up. Yeah. She obviously doesn't agree with my my list. Okay, this is Hart versus Mr. Perfect, King of the Ring 93. Too much hair pulling. Poor boys. Another pink top. Countered.
Messed up. Fruit roll-up.
Well, I've already sworn. We don't have to say it explicit. Countered, fucked up, fruit roll-up, shoulder totes off the floor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's because he won, didn't he?
It was
I think it was a small package. And his shoulders were up.
That was why it didn't make my top 10 because it was a bodged ending.
She has done notes on our number 1, by the way.
Yes. Should we read the notes first?
Yep. Okay. So here it is. Mr. Mastermind Ollie Springs number 1, and of course the Killer Kyle's number 1 as well. Bums out. Lots of. I don't want to say what that looks like.
Lots of waving.
Bombs out, lots of waving, ladder about, ladder sandwich, Razor got it first, flipping heck, long match.
Of course, number one, the best match of the first 10 years of WWF pay-per-view. It was an easy one for me, at least. Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, WrestleMania 10 ladder match. It was just an absolutely fantastic show of sports entertainment.
It was certainly sports entertainment. No, the thing I liked was they only had one ladder.
Yep.
Which almost broke.
Terrible idea, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, you don't see a ladder match with just one ladder these days. It was brutal. It was some new things that I don't think I've ever seen before.
It was groundbreaking. It basically changed the wrestling scene, changed the face of wrestling for all gimmick matches to come.
Some things that Shawn Michaels obviously did. I think he sort of did a slingshot off the ladder and hurt himself.
He did loads. There were so many big spots, so many brutal spots. I say at the time when you didn't really have much hardcore wrestling, it was just insane. I mean, if you were watching it live based on what was history up until that point, yeah, you'd be surprised that both men walked out, in one piece after the match.
I think, like you're saying, most people obviously watch wrestling up to that point of watching that match for the very first time. There's been no matches since or after that. That would be number one
of all time. Yeah, well, that's why it's number one of the first 10 years, because it was just an amazing match. Both men put their bodies on the line. The spots they came up with were just ingenious. You give Shawn Michaels a ladder, and some people say he had a 20-minute match with the ladder, and Razor Ramon was just in the ring.
No,
I wouldn't necessarily agree with it, but you can see where they're coming from, because it took brains and it took invention to do what they did.
Yeah, and of course, wasn't Shawn Michaels did a leapfrog or a splash off the ladder, and that became one of the most iconic pictures.
It's one of the most iconic like shots in wrestling history. Obviously, both men really kind of laying down the law of show stealing, really. And I think they did it just as Savage and Steamboat did at WrestleMania 3. I think that caps off our top 10 from the first 10 years of the WWF pay-per-view. Thank you very much for listening. Do check out the website. We'll put some comments up there if you want to have any say on your opinions on the top 10s.
About to say, if you got your own top 10 of the first 10 years, then by all means do go onto our website, register, and leave them there.
I'd love to hear what people's what other matches we might have missed.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Anyway, our website is figure4radio.webs.com. Also our Twitter.
Yeah, we have a Twitter.
Our Twitter is at figure4radio.
Figure4Radio, yeah, Twitter. Thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned for more. We'll be doing lots more of these. But I don't know about you, Carl. I can't stand this heat. I'm getting out the sauna.
Oh, I'm actually quite sweating. I think my glasses are steaming up.
Wow, I'm tapping out. Thanks for listening.
Figure 4 Radio. Lock it in. Lock it in. Lock it in.